Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today it is cloudy and rains in the forecast, so what is there better to do than some fall crafting? Now I'm still working on my current projects, so I thought I would share some blasts from the past from a couple years ago. The first one is going to be a DIY napkin ring holder that I'm going to be making out of a toilet paper roll. The first thing that I did was I marked on my toilet paper roll here the length that I want my napkin ring to be. I did it just a little bit shorter than what the width of the ribbon is. So I'm just going to cut down to my mark, start cutting on one side a little bit, and then I'm going to continue on this other side and cut all the way around. And you don't have to be super neat with this because, like I said, I did mine just a little bit shorter, so the ribbon is going to cover everything up. Next thing I'm going to do is I want to measure the length of my ribbon. I'm just going to roll it around, have a little bit of an overlap, and then cut it. The next thing I'm going to do is hot glue it on. So I'm just going to do a bead on the roll here. Take one end of the ribbon, press it on, and be very careful because it is hot and I did burn myself a few times. I'm going to roll it around, tighten it up, and put a little bead of glue on the end. Just make sure you get it tight here, and then press it down. And again, be careful with the glue being hot. Now I'm going to make my pumpkin out of the jute. I cut a piece of cardboard to the width that I want my pumpkin to be, and I'm just going to wrap it around. I did it about 15 times. You can do as many times as you want to if you want a thicker pumpkin. Now I'm just going to slide it off of the cardboard, and I'm going to use some real thin floral wire. I cut off a couple of pieces here. Just going to stick it through, pull it behind really tight, and then I'm going to twist a few times to make sure it's really tight on there. Then I'm just going to cut off the excess. And I do need to make one more. Now that I have both of them made, I'm going to twist them together, and then I will be cutting off the excess of the wire when I get ready to glue it onto the napkin ring. So I'm just kind of pulling it apart, making a little bit of a shape of the pumpkin. Now, I went ahead and did a little bit of whitewash on mine because I wanted my pumpkin to show up a little bit more. Next thing is to hot glue it on, and I'm just going to put some glue around here. Just be really careful and not burn yourself. Then I'm just going to press it on to the napkin ring. And I want it down a little bit low because I'm going to be putting a stem on here. And I did have a few gaps, so I'm going to have to add a little bit more of the hot glue here, and hopefully that will hold it down. This side looks like it needs a little bit more too. Okay, so you have to play with it a little bit because you will have a little bit of a gap. And then I want to put the stem on. So I'm just using a branch off of one of my bushes that had a dead spot, and I cut 6 of these since I'm making 6 of them. I cut it to a certain length that I wanted, just putting some hot glue on it, and I'm sticking it down in there, and I'm putting it on just a little bit of a kind of sideways. Now the next projects are 4 DIY pumpkins that I also did 2 years ago. This is the first pumpkin I'm going to be working on, and I'm going to be adding some burlap and some lace to this. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a rustic look. The first thing I did was remove the stem because I'm going to be Mod Podging the burlap and the lace on here, and the stem is in the way. And you know, I probably not going to replace it with the same stem. You can on yours. I like to use real pumpkin stems. So this is what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be lining up the burlap on here and cutting it. So here is a piece that I've already done. And this is how I did it. I'm sorry that this isn't on the camera correctly. There we go. So I just took a pin and stuck it in, since it's styrofoam, just to hold it at the top. And I just do one side of the burlap on here in the crease, and then I also do it on the bottom. And now I'm just cutting off the excess. So basically all you need to do is hold it tight and just stretch it over a little bit and cut along the other crease on the other side. And I found this to be a little difficult. It takes a little bit of practice to do it, and sometimes it gets off a little bit, but since I'm using the ribbon to cover up on the other side, that works out all right. So now I'm going to be Mod Podging this other piece on, and I am doing every other section, and my pumpkin happens to have 10 sections, so it's best to work with a pumpkin that has even sections on it. And I'm just putting a lot of Mod Podge on here, and then I will be sticking the piece that I cut on here, and sometimes you got to play with it just a little bit to get it to be stretched over. And you know, you can always paint your pumpkin a different color if you want to. Because I know you can see the orange through the burlap. But of course I'm going to be painting the whole thing. Then you just need to press it down in there. Make sure you get the one side in the crease very well, and then, like I said, stretch it over to the other side. And you may have to do a little bit of trim work, because I did find out that some pieces got a little bit bigger on me. So now I have all of the burlap on there, and I was just testing with the ribbon. Now, I got this ribbon at Walmart just recently, and I also got the burlap from Walmart. I've had it for a few years, and I wasn't sure if I really liked the green. That's why I'm using that on here. Again, putting the Mod Podge on, and I'm using 3 strips for each section. So I'm just going to put one section on towards the crease. And then of course it doesn't fit perfectly, so you have to do a little bit of trimming. Then I'm going to be putting Mod Podge on the other side of the other crease, because I'm going to be putting the next strip of lace on that side first. And yes, I dropped it. I drop a lot of stuff. This was a very messy project here for me. Okay, and I do apologize for this being kind of far away the way my camera was. It's kind of cutting off at the top, so I think you can see it here. So then again, you want to trim off your section. And then the last piece is going to go in the middle of the other two. And then again, just make sure that you trim up all the overlapping sections there. Now that I got that done, I decided to take some jute and just hot glue it in the creases of the sections just to cover up some of the pieces. It wasn't really all that pretty looking. Even though I'm going to paint it, I thought this would add a little bit more detail to it. So here it is, all done, ready to be painted. It actually kind of looks nice the way it is, but I'm going to paint it. And I did take an extra piece of the burlap to cover up the bottom. And I'm actually going to be painting this an off-white color. And then I want to do some kind of faux treatment to it, and then of course put my real pumpkin stem on. So now this is the color I'm using. It's Antique Parchment Apple Barrel, and I got it at Walmart. And I'm actually going to be starting off right now. When I was doing this, I was using it really thick and it's just not covering well. So I ended up watering down the paint to put it on, and it did take a few coats to do it. So here's where I watered down the paint, and it's going on, as you can see, much easier. Now I kind of wish that I would have painted the pumpkin white here. You know, it's like you live and you learn on these things. This is the first time I've tried this, and I really wish I would have painted the pumpkin white, and also that I used lighter colored lace and burlap, because this did take a few coats to do this, and I think it would have been much better if I would have done at least do the pumpkin white underneath, because it was a little difficult to get into all the little holes to cover up the orange. And I think it would look more farmhouse-ish that way, and I could have just left it that way. It just wasn't turning out as light colored as I wanted it. So like I said, you live and you learn. Next time if I do another one, I'm going to use lighter colors. Or actually use colors that you would want to keep and not have to paint. So here it is all painted, and I did a little test here before I started this just to see if this is the color, and it's Golden Brown by Delta, and I don't know if you can still get this color. I've had it for a long time, but Hobby Lobby carries that brand. And I just like to use a wet paper towel, and I just rub it in. Because you can rub some of it off. You can add a little bit more water to your paper towel and wipe it off if you need to. but I'm doing it more where it's darker in some spots and lighter in others. And like, you know, I say always, it's your preference what you want to do, if you want to do it heavy or really, really light. And again, I could have left it the way it is before I did this, but I really wanted to have a little bit more color to this. And I did try doing like a black and a gray on it, and I didn't like it, and I had to repaint it. But I do like this brown color. It looks a little more orangey on here. So I will be finishing up the rest of the pumpkin here, and then you'll get to see it, how it looks all done here. And I will be putting the real pumpkin stem on. Okay, that's the next thing. And I did on the jute area, I did go a little bit darker, and this is a real pumpkin stem. I like to keep my stems from my pumpkins that I get every year. And I'm just putting some hot glue on it right now. I know you can't see it the way the camera is, but I'm just putting hot glue on the stem and pressing it in. And I just happened to find one that fit perfect in that hole there. So here is the next pumpkin that I'm going to be doing. Now this pumpkin I painted like this a few years ago, but I never did anything else with it. I'm going to put some feathers on here. This is, I think it was called a feather boa. I got it many years ago at Hobby Lobby, and I mainly bought it to make little picks out of it, which I've done. And now I've cut a piece off already, and I'm just going to hot glue it around the stem. But you know what? This stem is a little tight in that area, so I'm going to have to pop it off. And I'm actually going to be using a real pumpkin stem instead. Now I was looking at this one because I think it kind of goes with the feathers. But I think I'm going to use this one because it is up higher. The other one was a little bit too low. So I think this is what I'm going to use instead. So I'm going to go ahead and hot glue it on. And now I'm going to hot glue the piece of the feather boa around it. So I'm just going to put the hot glue around the stem and stick on the feathers. So this is just a real simple and easy way to dress up a faux pumpkin. I really like how this looks. It's a little Tuscan looking. You could also have your pumpkin an orange color too. Now here is the third pumpkin. It's actually the third and the fourth. Now these, I have two of these. I got these at a thrift store for $1 a piece, but I don't like the raffia around the stem. So I am cutting it down as close as I can because it doesn't come out, unfortunately. So I'm just going to cut around. I'm going to do it on both pumpkins and just trim it up. Like I said, it would have been a lot easier if I could just remove the raffia, but it is really down in there. I tried pulling on it, but it didn't work. So the first pumpkin here, I'm actually going to paint, and it's just going to be watered down paint, and I'm going to use more like a burnt orange color. And the other one, I'm just going to leave this natural color. And you know what this does? This did take a little bit of time to do this to get it close enough. So here's how it turned out. I just used a burnt orange color that I have and I watered it down. But I thought I want to dress this up just a little bit. So I'm taking I took some of this jute here and I braided it. And I made it long enough where I could, it's got, as you can see, it's got a little bit of sections where you can see it. And I'm just going to hot glue these on. And I'm actually going to be able to do one section with each braid. It turned out to have 6 sections on here. And I do have these knotted at the ends, but I will be cutting those off. Like I said, I'm just hot gluing it along the little on the each sections here. And when I get to the bottom, I'm just going to wrap it around and come back up the other side. Now I just used 3 pieces as a braid, but you know, I also thought you could do a thicker braid where you used like 6 pieces of jute instead. But I think this is big enough on here. And it does tie in with the braid that is already there. I thought this would be easier to make it long enough just to wrap it around the bottom instead of doing 6 individual pieces. Just a little bit more glue here at the top. And then you just cut off the excess. And it looks like I need to hot glue this in a little bit. Get it pushed in. Just always be careful with your fingers with the hot glue. I have burnt myself so many times. So now I just made a little bow with a couple pieces of jute, and I'm going to be putting on these burlap leaves. Now I actually cut these out of these laminated burlap sheets that I got at Walmart. I just got those recently, so they should still have them. And these are the leaves from some, I think it was just a flower bush I had. And what you do is I put the laminate side there and I just used a Sharpie and I traced around it and I cut them out. So now I'm going to hot glue these on to the pumpkin area where I cut out that raffia. Trying to disguise it just a little bit. I'm trying to get this one to stand up a little bit more instead of being flat. Sometimes you just have to work with it. There, I think I like the way that one looks. Now that I figured out where I want to place the other one, I'm going to put some hot glue on it and stick it on. All right, so that is all I'm going to be doing to this pumpkin. So here is the other pumpkin, and all I did was make a little bow on it. I have this ribbon, it's an ombre that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I just used some jute on it and tied it to the stem. I actually have this in green too, but I did like this color. I thought it coordinated great. I am going to be adding some real acorns on here, just going to hot glue them on in the bow area. And I think that that will dress it up nicely, and I'm just going to keep it like that. And see, I'm good at dropping things. I'm just going to use 2 on here. These are pretty good size acorns. And this one's not wanting to stick very well. Having a little bit of problem getting this one to stay on here. To add a little bit more glue to it. And a little bit more glue. There, I think it's going to hold now. Well, maybe not. And maybe not. Oh boy. Yeah, that one's not wanting to stay. I think it's gonna, well, I think it will now. So I think that looks really cute like that. And you know what? I did go ahead and put them on the other one. So here is how I use my napkin ring. I took one of my rust-colored napkins because I thought it would just pop off from here and stand out. I took a piece of a feather pick and tucked it back behind. Then I also have this little bit of leaves that came from another fall pick, tucked it in front of the feathers. And then I had a little bit of a berry bunch that came off of a different fall pick. Just going to fix the berries here a little bit and tuck it in. All right, so this is an easy way to beautify your fall table. Now here are the other pumpkins that I did. We got the close-ups here. And I really love the one with the feathers. It was so easy to do. But my favorite is this one with the burlap and the lace. All right, my sweet friends, that's going to do it for the video today. I hope that you enjoyed it and that I could give you some ideas how to spruce up your existing pumpkins and how to make your own napkin rings. I want to wish everybody a very wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.